Okay, everyone, thank you for joining us today for this Active Learning Academy special topic seminar. Today's topic is on creative online projects, and we have 4 active learning leaders who have put together this program for us today. Ellen Wisner from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences is with us. Julie Cook, College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. She has actually had an emergency and is not able to be with us at this moment, but we do know she's going to try to join before the end of the session if she can. Mandy Carter from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences and Beth O'Yarzin from the Cato College of Education are our active learning leaders and our presenters today. Thank you so much to all of you for putting together this presentation. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Jules, and hi to everyone that's joining us today. I really appreciate that you took the time in this inclement weather to join us. And this is our schedule of events for today. I'm doing the first part about setting the tone for the online class, and then we'll have Ellen join us to talk about a podcasting project that she does. And Julie, we've moved to last just in case so she can have time to come. And then Mandy has a Padlet project that she's going to be sharing with us. So just to give you a little overview. But like I said, I'm going to start out and talk about some setting the tone type projects that you could use for your online courses. And my name is Beth O'Yarzin, and I'm from the Educational Leadership Department in the Cato College of Education. I teach in the Learning Design and Technology program. It's a master's program that's offered fully online, asynchronously, and we have a cap of about 20 students. As well as thunderstorms I hear some news. Can somebody? Oh, thank you. So these are not large class activities, but they may be able to be adapted for larger class sizes. But I just wanted to give you a little context about my teaching before I gave you my project ideas. And feel free to chat any questions or open your mic and ask questions at any time. So before I get into the projects, I wanted to give you a little framework around where the setting tone comes from in online learning. And this is the community of inquiry framework. It's used in designing and developing and researching a lot of online learning. And I know it's kind of a busy slide, and I apologize for that. So I'm going to give a little context to it. Each of the 3 circles represents different presences. And they overlap to create a quality online learning experience. The social presence is the yellow circle, and that is the ability of people to project themselves as real people through the computer or through the medium, which in this case is online. Cognitive presence is the actual thinking about the content of the course. And then the teaching presence is the design and the facilitation of the course. And you'll see the blue circle and yellow circle overlap, the social presence and teaching presence overlap, and it's called setting climate. And that's really where the focus of my projects is today, is how to set the climate and the tone of the course through some small activities or projects. And first of all, in that talks about introductions. A lot of online courses, if you've been through any QM courses, you know that having students introduce themselves is important, but how they do it is can be even more engaging. And so you want to have them include professional and personal details, and that means for you as well, including professional and personal details. And I have a couple of things that are linked here, and we can get make sure you are provided these slides. So here's my virtual introduction page where I have pictures of my family, and I'm a scuba diver and underwater photographer. So these are pictures of my scuba diving that I have. And I've latched on to the Bitmoji idea of adding some personality to my course. And so having students do that too. And I'm not sure if you're aware of the tool called Flipgrid that you could use within the class, but you can have students introduce themselves with video as well. And then you can also do an introductory video for students that shows a little more personality using humor. And I have an example here in my course that I use for a video development course. And I did this through the video development seminar in the summer through CTL. The audio won't play here, but it is where I have my phone rings while I'm trying to introduce myself. So I'm showing them what a bad video introduction might look like, and then showing them what a good video introduction might look like. Any questions? And then after the introduction, or using icebreakers within the introduction can be very helpful. And these are a couple of examples that I've used in classes and other ideas that you could use to take into your courses. The first one is where I have students Google each other to introduce a classmate. So I give them some very specific instructions and some very specific due dates as to how this activity is going to work. So they have to look for jobs, families, degrees. They can use Google, Yahoo, social media, all kinds of different search techniques. And you can see the instructions here have very specific structure around them, and they have to email the introduction to the other person before they post it to the class. And so this allows them to get to know each other a little bit, at least one person outside the LMS. So they're already talking to each other before the class begins. And then I've linked here some other icebreaker ideas that is for virtual corporate teams, but they could easily be adapted into the higher education environment. So having them do, if they're a video introduction, especially having them tell 2 truths, a lie, and a lie, and have each other guess what those are. Table topics where you have a set of topics and they pick one and they describe those. But anyway, there's different ideas on this website that you could adapt into doing some icebreakers for your class. And this the idea of introductions and icebreakers is to just, make everybody feel comfortable before digging into the major content of the course. The other thing that I do is structured collaborative assignments that last throughout the entire course. This is where they have different parts going through the course, different submission, and this creates a bigger feedback loop between me and them. And so this project that you see here on the left was a professional learning network that they had to create. So they were put in groups, and each group member had to create a professional social media account on a platform of their choice. They had to pick a topic for which to research. And then each part, they did different activities. In part 1, they had to find 3 experts around their topic to follow and then report on those. In part 2, they had to find 3 organizations to follow, et cetera. And so each part they added to their knowledge base around the topic that they chose. And then it culminated in a final presentation where they reported out all that they found out through building their professional learning network throughout the course. And so that's a project that I've used in my class, but on the right is maybe a generic setup that you could use in your course, where you have the introduction via the icebreakers that I just mentioned. In module 1, you might have some group formation and social skills, or have them sign up for groups. Module 2 may be a checkpoint where they submit something small for the project. Part 3, module 3, they may do an evaluation of how it's going, how their group members are working, how it's gelling for them. And then another checkpoint evaluation, and then a final product. And so I usually think of this as my course design. This is the first thing that I do. What's the major project that I want to have them do for the course? And then I lay it out in the modules, and then have the content then support this major project that they're working on throughout the course. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ellen. And if you have any questions about this, feel free to jump in the chat. I'd be happy to answer them.
So hi, everybody. I'm Ellen Wisner from the Department of Biology. And I'm just going to talk about this project that I came up with for a class that I was planning for fall 2020. And I guess I'll give you a little bit of information on why I even came up with this. I never taught online before the pandemic. And so I took some professional development about online teaching, and they suggested to try to move away from so many exams and see if you couldn't turn some of that assessment into projects. And so I was trying to think of like a cool way that I could have a project instead of doing exams. And this is what I came up with. And it's worked really well. And it's also one of those things where, they always ask you when you move back to in-person teaching, like, what will you take with you? I will never lose this assignment because it's great and the students have really loved it. So the class that I did it in, and this really could be for any class, was an upper level biology class called Biology Birds. I had 44 students, and then I taught it what I think is being termed bisynchronously, where half the class was asynchronous and half the class was synchronous. We met once a week instead of twice a week live, essentially. Oh, yeah, go ahead and click twice. So why you should consider podcasting. I was pretty intimidated by I've never made a podcast before. And so I was pretty intimidated by the idea of assigning a podcast. But there's a lot of good reasons for why you should try it. One, they're super popular. It's also just a really different way for students to kind of get creative and make something they haven't made before. So the student feedback this was really good. They hadn't made one before and it was something different. They have every bit of equipment they need. You really need a computer. And if your computer doesn't have a microphone, that's not even a big deal because you can record it with your cell phone. It's really flexible. The project I'm going to talk about was a semester-long project, and I'm doing it again this semester. But you could easily turn this into a short, like a one-day project or maybe a two-day project. So there's a lot of opportunities. My students did collaborate online with this. Last semester, I allowed them to work as individuals or in groups. And this semester, I actually said all have to be in groups because of how easy it was to do collaboratively. And it's super fun. So if you'll go on to the next slide. So I want to kind of break down the assignment that I did. And again, this could be modified in all sorts of different ways. So what we did at the very beginning of the semester is just an intro to podcasts. So I found a lot of podcasts that related to either birds, because it was a birds class, or just biology. And they had to listen to little clips of them. So 3 to 5 minutes. And I think I had maybe 4 or 5 different podcasts. And they had to brainstorm on what elements they liked, what were the storytelling aspects, things that they liked about the podcast. I then did have them submit a topic and I approved it just to make sure the scope was right. And for our podcast, the only goal was they had to educate the listener about bird biology and do so in a way that a general audience could understand. So they then had an outline. And we did do, so part 4 was recording practice. Part of the reason I had been intimidated about assigning a podcast is I was worried that just like technology would hold the students back. It didn't. They did this so the recording practice was a less than an hour assignment that they did on their own. And I actually had no questions on it at all. All of them were able to, so what they had to do was say their name, tell me their favorite bird, and they actually had to put intro music into it and then have outro music. So it faded in and everything. And I didn't have a single question on technology, even though I thought I was going to. Again, there's just lots of steps to kind of guide them along the way. So then they had to write a script, and that was where the heaviest grading came from me. They did an audio draft and then did their final episode. And I just wanted to play you a little clip of one of them to show you, like, this is totally student made.
You're listening to Winging It, and I'm Christina Johnson. This episode is bearded vultures, conservation, and polygamy. Now, how do these topics go together?
You can stop it there, but if you all want to come and watch the podcast later or listen to the podcast later, you're welcome to in that link there. But it was quite easy for the students to do it, and the final products are really professional sounding. And so I just sort of wanted to share that that's a possibility. So if you'll go to the next slide. like I mentioned before, I think this is pretty easily adaptable. You could easily have them create like a 1-minute podcast where they read a research article and they do like a 1-minute, like quick podcast. It was also really easy if you wanted to make a podcast. It turns out that's easy to do. So you could make a podcast and post it as asynchronous material for your students. I found myself finding other podcasts and incorporating them into my work, like into my asynchronous work for my students, and they really liked it. So as opposed to just videos or readings, sometimes I'd pop a podcast in there and they loved that. What I wanted to do is, if you'll click one more, this is my little chat icon. In the chat, I wanted to see, just brainstorm if you guys had ideas for how you might be able to adapt this or use something like this in your class, so we could kind of brainstorm together. So again, in the chat, if you have any ideas of how you might use it or adapt it, so we can all learn. And I'll wait a bit for the chat. I'm good at that. Well, I'll continue to wait, but I will yeah, here we go. Oh, Natasha, I didn't mention that, but I had a lot of students interview other people outside of the university, and it worked really well. All they do is they do a Zoom call, and you can just record the audio of the Zoom. And so I had them interview someone from the CDC, like literally people all over the country. I see lots of really cool ideas. One other thing I would mention on here is I put that little thing in the upper corner from Canvas. You might recognize that from SpeedGrader. The other reason I pop that up there is because if you look, one of the ways you can give students feedback is if you click the little thing that looks like audio, you can give them audio feedback. And I started doing that sometimes too, just like a different way to give them feedback. And I have a lot of questions in the chat. I think I have time, so I'll try to answer some of those questions really quick. Beth, can you click one more? I think you clicked on the link, yeah. So Grace asked, what kind of examples did I provide? I structured my curriculum, like my assignments, based on these two resources here. So NPR and the New York Times encourages high school students. They have like a high school competition every year where high school students produce podcasts, and they have really detailed curriculum. But I'm also happy to provide the exact ones I used. So I went through and found exact, podcasts that I thought were relevant to my students. But those links are really useful. I saw a couple other questions. So Carrie asked a technology question, which was, what do they use to record their podcasts? If they do interviews or they work in groups, a lot of times they just use Zoom. So you can set it so you just record audio. It's pretty easy to do. So that was one way they did it. And then the editing software they used is called Audacity. It's free to download, and it is very simple to use. And so I provided them very basic instructions, and they were able to do that. Yeah, and Lydia, if you want pointers, send me an email. My email is ewisner it's at the end of the slides, but I'm happy to send like my instruction sheets that I came up with. Again, they're based on these two links here. But we didn't have any technology problems. A lot of students just recorded with their cell phones, the audio. Well, that's all I have. Hopefully you guys can kind of come up with cool, short podcast type projects.
Okay, thanks, Ellen. That's a really, really cool idea. Mine is not quite as cool, but still hopefully useful to you if you find yourself teaching a skills-based class, like maybe a public speaking class or a class where there has to be some type of oral deliverable, this exercise might work for you. My name is Mandy Carter. I teach, I'm an adjunct in the Department of Communication Studies, and I teach media law and argumentation and debate there. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is a project that I use in my debate class. It is a class that's about 20 students, and the debate at the end of the semester, what we work toward the whole semester, is a partner debate where I have teams of 2 against another team of 2. And when we're face-to-face, which I typically teach this class face-to-face, but have been online for the past couple of semesters now, when we are in the classroom, it's easy for students to get to know each other and get a sense for the personalities of the different partners and things like that. But in the online environment, I think it can be difficult for the students to get to know each other. And there's a lot of anxiety that I've noticed since we've been online with the students trying to pick a partner to ultimately do this large assignment with at the end of the semester. And so last semester, I introduced Padlet as a way to kind of get around, or as a way to try to figure out those issues with the online environment. And it worked well, and I'm doing it again this semester, so I wanted to share it with you. I guess you can go to the next slide, Beth. I can't remember what is on there. And maybe animate that if it clicks. Okay. So again, the class that I use this in is a skills-based class where we learn about how to deliver a debate and how to structure an argument kind of at the first part of the semester in a vacuum. And then as we learn the skills, we start to incorporate practice. And Padlet is one of the tools that I've used. You guys are likely familiar with this software. It's very similar to Flipgrid, which has already been mentioned today, but it's an online video software that you can use. Actually, it's not video software, but you can use Padlet for a lot of different things. You can post sticky notes if you kind of have a general discussion that you want to use, instead of like if you don't want to use a forum, you can use Padlet and have the students kind of post sticky note responses to it. You can also use Padlet to have students upload video, and that's how I use it. So I will have students learn a skill and then work on a Padlet page to kind of exercise that skill and submit it through a video. They can use Padlet to record directly on the page, and they can record as many times as they want to. They can upload their video if they want to record it on their own. They can link to a YouTube page. Padlet has all of those capabilities. And so the students will test out the skill, I guess, execute the skill in a video format on Padlet and post it. And it kind of appears, I think that I have that on the next slide, Beth. It kind of appears on a grid. And this is a recent project, but I blurred the students' faces for their privacy there. But you can see how it pops up. It pops up in a grid, and the students can go back in and they can view each other's responses. They can comment on each other's responses. I wish it had the chance to video comment. It doesn't, that I've been able to figure out so far, but you can provide the text comment, and it gives the students a chance to see each other, again, figure out the other students' debate styles, how they approach the topic, because I usually give either the same topic or a choice of 2 topics to where they will practice the skill on their own and then see how other students approached it. And maybe if they approached it similarly, they can find alignment there with a potential partner. And I do this for every skill, kind of building incrementally, scaffolding effect there to ultimately where we have a practice debate in Padlet, and then we use Zoom for the rest of the debates. But this has really been a tool that I have found beneficial for helping students get to know each other online, and also for skill practice and skill delivery there. But yeah, Padlet is on just a website. It's not an app that you have to download or anything like that. I do pay for a larger, just because I'm nervous that the space that I'll get too big. So I pay, and it's just a small amount that I usually cancel when the semester is over, but the students don't have to pay at all to use it. It's free for them. And and that's Padlet. Let me know if you have any questions. Oh yeah, some ideas for use. Public speaking class would be great for it. Debate, that's how I use it. And we're getting into a point where I'm having students post the first speaker's debate and then the response after they view their classmates. I've already talked about how you can use the post-it note function if you don't like the discussion board format. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, everyone.